So what's this pamphlet trying to say? The title page says, "Come and see the empire by the all-red route." So automatically you assume this is some kind of pro-imperial pamphlet which wants to promote the British Empire and is asking people to go on a journey to discover it. And again, the inside page gives a similar message, saying it's our duty of every British citizen to see our glorious empire. We must take a proper pride in our possessions. So it's quite striking. However, soon we discover a shift in tone. It says, it opens with, "You've noticed that luxury liner on the cover as the boat," and says she's quite comfortable for 250 guineas, which actually is quite a lot of money, and I think it's about £300-400 in our money today. At least she'll be quite comfortable for you if you happen to have that money. She won't be so comfortable for the British seamen and stewards and the 45,000 lascars, which it explains are the name for Indian sailors, which is an important piece of context. And then goes on to critique their poor pay and the poor conditions that these seafarers would have on the journey, particularly for the Indian workers. And it says, "You see, even on our boat, the empire is being exploited." On the third page, this goes on, because this takes us across the empire. It says, "Where workers are animals." So this becomes really quite striking and shocking use of language. It says, "This is certainly no place for holidaying. Let's move on to South Africa, where at least the climate is good." So it's kind of using humour, sarcasm really, to convey this message in quite a kind of, and it's a shift in tone, this kind of entertaining language that then comes down with these really quite shocking facts about the condition for workers across the empire. This part on India, I think, is particularly evocative. It says, "Let's try another continent across the Indian Ocean." And India has been called the brightest gem in the crown of Britain, and it quotes the Financial Times saying about how wealthy India is. But it doesn't shine quite so brightly for the Indian workers, the pamphlet explains. In Britain, the average life expectancy is 55 years, which again dates this pamphlet, which is not very long in today's money. But in India, it's fallen from 30 to 23 years, which is a shocking statistic. And it then goes on to draw parallels with Ireland too, which is interesting. I think also looking at pamphlets like this, particularly in this period, language that's unfamiliar and offensive today often crops up, which I think is an important part of understanding the context and enabling students to really unpick meaning. So it just refers to the coolies of Ireland, which is a term that was used, a really derogatory term used to describe unskilled workers in other countries like India and China. But it describes the potato famine, for example, saying in 1846 and the 2 following years there was a potato famine. During the 3 years, over 1 million people died of hunger and disease, yet there was plenty of food in Ireland at the time. While the Irish peasants were dying of hunger, the British capitalists were reaping huge profits from food exports. So it's just a really fascinating picture, I think. And then particularly I like this because it kind of reads like clickbait today. On the back page it says, "Don't read this," obviously. We plunge in and have a look. And this is where we get a bit more context about who has produced this. Because soon we discover that this pamphlet is describing the really important role that the Independent Labour Party, a particular political party in Britain at the time, was playing in the struggle against British imperialism. So it becomes clearer that the Workers' Empire Exhibition Committee was closely allied, or at least part of the ILP. So there's lots to discover, I think.